Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaeden Schafer. Today on the podcast, I am super excited to have Spriha Baruah Tucker on the show talking about all things AI. I'm excited about the show for a number of reasons. One, because she has an insane amount of energy, so you know that it's going to be a great show. But also, she's the field CTO over at Buildkite. She is a two-time Y Combinator founder. She has helped a lot of the world's top engineering teams work faster, more reliably. She previously built developer tools, which are used by companies like Slack, Figma, DoorDash. She also spent 4 years at Google working on a lot of major products. So really excited, and welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Jaeden. Excited to be here.
Okay, give us in like 2 sentences or like in a nutshell what Buildkite is doing today, and then like what got you there. Tell us about like your journey. Like, how did you get to where you are today? And then I want to start getting all your insights about what you're seeing in the industry.
Let's do it. Okay, so 2 sentences of basically what Buildkite does. Buildkite is a CI/CD platform that powers a ridiculous amount of the world's code bases.
Okay.
You may have not heard of us because we're an infrastructure product, but you have most definitely used a product that has gone through Buildkite systems. And by CI/CD, think GitHub Actions, Jenkins, those sorts of things.
Okay. So and then it's like, how did you end up here? Like, tell us a little bit about your like journey that brought you to Buildkite.
Yeah. I'd founded a company before this called Aviator. And what Aviator did, among other things, was to help you run very large Git monorepos.
Okay.
So our customers were large enterprises that had large Git monorepos. And every single one of them, without fail, used Buildkite. And I had never heard of Buildkite before that. Because like I said, it's this invisible infrastructure layer tool. Figma, DoorDash, Slack, Spotify, like a whole bunch of things used Buildkite under the hood. And not only did they use it, they loved it, which is very rare for an infra product.
Yeah.
Most people just like set, forget, not really talk about it, or they're like frustrated with tooling. With Buildkite, the amount of love I saw from my customer base back at Aviator for this other tool made me very envious about the other tool. I was like, I want them to love my product just as much. It's the craft, and there's a bunch of things that Buildkite has gotten right. But yeah, that's actually how I heard about Buildkite. And I emailed the founder at the time. I was like, hey, just letting you know your customers they love it. And specifically, there was this one customer that I'm not sure I'm allowed to name the name, but it's a very large company. They were mutual customers. So they were a customer at Aviator, and they were Buildkite's customer. They were telling me, this was back when I was running Aviator, they were telling me that among their other priorities, they had a lot of different priorities like do this migration, like ensure some compliance stuff. There's a bunch of tooling that they needed to do. But one of the top things they had was to produce this infomercial with a jingle. And I was like, hold on, why are you producing an infomercial with a jingle in addition to doing all these migrations and stuff? You're an infra team. They're like, yeah, there's a tool that we really want we want the rest of our engineering team to buy into so that we can roll it out to the rest of the company. And so we want to, we really want to educate people on why we like it so much, like why we've got all these, how it's a better way of working. And I was like, what is this tool? And why aren't you making infomercials about me? Meaning about Aviator,
Yeah.
Yeah, why aren't you making infomercials about Aviator instead? And they're like, yeah, Aviator stuff is self-explanatory and stuff like that. But with Buildkite, so Buildkite was the tool that and I was with Buildkite. There's all these things that we want to do, and it can like really improve our system so much. And their eyes lit up. And this is so rare, Jaeden. For crusty enterprises and having crusty. By crusty, I mean there's a lot of stuff to deal with in addition to and very rightly so. So for these types of industries, for infra teams at these companies to be producing infomercials and jingles about a product, you have no idea how rare it is. And so I was intrigued. And so I was like, holy shit, you should let Buildkite know. Does Buildkite know about this? And they were like, no, this is an internal, this is meant for internal education, really. So what does Buildkite have to do with it? And I was like, you should let them know. And they're like, yeah, sure, let them know and stuff. And so I emailed the Buildkite founder and CC these guys, and I was like, hey, just letting you know, your customers here love your product so much that they're out there educating, they're out there making jingles about you. I was like, fellow founder, I wish my product was like that. Congrats on building an incredible tool. And he was like, wow, thank you so much. I didn't know how they're using it. I didn't know that they loved it this much. I will definitely let my team know. But also, how the hell do you know about what my customers are doing with my product? that started the relationship. Yeah, I ended up here after.
That is amazing. Honestly, that's maybe one of the best company origin stories I've heard. And massive kudos to that company for creating a jingle and a video. That
Yeah,
is
I really enjoyed it too. You have to think about the days, like, if you're just dealing with incidents day in and day out and, like, firefighting and whatnot, see, the ability to go and actually do something fun, especially if it's going to improve your systems, is a welcome thing to have on the to-do list, I'd imagine.
totally. Yeah, no, that is so
Yeah.
funny. That is awesome. Okay, so I know you work with a lot of big companies, and you mentioned like with Buildkite, you guys are working with a lot of big firms. I'm sure some of them you can name, some of them you can't.
Yeah.
What is like one big misconception you feel like that people have about AI today that you want to clear up? I mean, you have some interesting insights from kind of a top level on a lot of these companies.
Yeah.
So like what's something that people are getting wrong today?
It's a process. So there's a bunch. Okay, so what's just letting AI willy nilly loose on your entire massive code base and expecting it to produce useful results? It'll produce results, but producing like results that last a while,
Hmm.
meaning changes that continue to stick onto your code base that don't just always have to be rolled back and stuff. That takes a little bit more thought than just letting the AI agents loose completely.
Hmm.
Which is why most companies today, they have to have a human in the loop. So they're empowering their engineers to work with AI. So they'll give you like an IDE that's AI powered and stuff. So you've got like, Cursor, or they'll put GitHub Copilot or whatever, like, or they'll have like Claude Code and
Yeah.
Codex, the background agent stuff too. Background agents meaning there are companies that are also running things in the just letting these agents run things on their own. But the but there's always a human in the loop, as there should be at this point. I would say the big tip here is, from my vantage point, what I'm seeing is dev platform teams that set up the dev platform
Yeah.
in a way that expects doesn't expect perfect code to be submitted to them
Hmm.
are the teams that are actually being able to use AI agents way more effectively now. So, for instance, there's a very large matchmaking service company out there who has a very good dev platform team, at least on their iOS side. Those folks, they've been able to adopt AI agents really well because they expect the rest of their engineering team to just hurl shit at them anyway.
Yeah.
These are the folks that manage CI. These are the folks that manage infra. These are the folks that have to cut releases and deploy things to production, ensure things don't break. Like, these are the folks who have to maintain the code base, not just ship stuff to it.
Hmm.
These folks, ironically, the folks who expect the rest of their engineering team to just expect them to submit faulty code and have already put in guardrails and like have put in not just guardrails, put in validation systems and feedback loops and all sorts of things in place, are now the teams that are doing really well with the AI agents because they've had to do them for humans anyway.
Yeah.
And so, I'd say the big tip here, the misconception here is you can just completely let AI agents run loose without
Right.
much prep. Like, you can get them to do a lot of things, but you might find that you'll have to dispose some of those things when you're
Yeah.
trying to do anything after. If you want if you want a maintainable code base, there are a few different. There are invest in systems that ensure that maintainability first, not
Hmm.
first, but parallelly together with
Yeah.
your AI agents, is what I'd say.
Okay. I love that. I actually think that's like honestly really solid advice that a lot of people will be able to use. I'm also just curious from like what you're seeing, like you're talking about Codex and like Claude Code and stuff. Are there certain tools that you're finding work better than others? Like just today, like, today on the ground is Codex, is Claude Code. And also we see a lot of these like benchmark results where people are like, oh, this model scored this on the benchmark. Is there any of those that you feel like are mismatched with what you see in reality today?
Yeah. So there's a few things. One, in terms of popularity of tools, I'm seeing Claude Code. Granted, this is a biased sample because it's Buildkite customers.
Yeah. Okay.
Buildkite customers they tend to be sophisticated folks who run the world's most important code bases. So we're talking products that you and I use every day. Yeah. For those curious, go look at Buildkite's logo wall for our publicly available. Like, Uber uses us,
Okay.
Shopify uses us, and it's not just one team; it's the entire code base, for instance. And there's a whole bunch of companies like this. But these folks are people who care about really good tooling and like maintainability and all of these things. Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of good tooling. So Claude Code is up there. There's a lot of, it's not on its own though. It's all It's usually augmented with internal tooling that they've built to put the guardrails around it. There's also Codex is good. Like I'm seeing an increasing use of Codex in the background.
Okay.
IDEs are all over like almost everyone I know is using is encouraging their developers to use AI powered IDEs. There's also the Microsoft advantage is definitely real. Like I'm seeing people, especially in regulated industries, having to use GitHub Copilot because Microsoft's suite is
Okay.
used internally. Anthropic's doing a good job though, from what I'm seeing, and on the enterprise front. Okay, so that was your tooling question. What was the other
Yeah.
question you said? There was
Like misconceptions when it comes to benchmarks versus like what you can
yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah, yeah,
see in the
yeah,
model too.
yeah. So what I'm seeing there is like just today I was talking to a company earlier this morning about how they're using AI agents to basically leverage up the rest of their engineering team on a few
Okay.
specific tasks. And what the CEO was telling me was it- it's cost prohibitive for them to given just the sheer amount of code they generate, it's cost prohibitive for them to use the most expensive model for every single job. And
Yeah.
so what they do is they use they've got a team that's dedicated to figuring out what types of what the models can really do for engineering task wise. And once they figure that out, then they'll try and they'll figure out what's the minimum set of things the model needs to do and how much of it can be done deterministically versus how much of it needs to be reasoned out with an AI model. Once they sort of shrink out that set, then they'll pick the cheapest and yet the cheapest model that can still do the limited set of things that they need to do, and then they'll deploy that first as a first pass, and only upon failure, like if that model for whatever reason cannot, for a given use case, cannot produce the output they need, then they fall back to more expensive models. And so what I'm trying to say is there's a research part where that team basically figures out what models can be used for what tasks. Then given a specific task, they try and find the cheapest possible model to run that task. And then they build out like a library of agents this way. But that's
Mm,
what's happening this is, again, like I said, this is at scale for companies that are doing things where it literally would be cost prohibitive for them, given the amount of code they generate, to use the most expensive model at all times. And so the benchmark results are great, but they're good for the most advanced tasks. Turns out if you can pick the right context and give the right inputs to models that are not the most cutting edge, you can still get the results you need. And that's what I'm seeing.
very, very cool. And do you see like something like that usually working with like an open source model or more just like older versions of?
Both. Like what I'm seeing is really like on the ground, people have no real loyalty to one specific
Yeah.
model. Like it's really just whatever gets the job done.
Yep.
Like new model drops, try it. Like something cheaper drops, try it. Like there's often layers to abstract away the actual.
Totally. Okay. Yes, I agree with you. I also think there might be just like a small bit of undying loyalty to Anthropic and Claude Code for some developers
Yeah,
that I have
no,
talked to.
I mean, yes. So for what it's worth, on the individual developer end, you tend to get used to the ergonomics of a tool just as
Yeah.
much as you tend to get used to the capabilities of it. I'm talking about on the code base entire enterprise's
Okay.
code base needs to be managed by like a dev
Yeah.
platform team, for instance. Those folks, like, what are they choosing for the code base wide jobs? I'm talking about dev platform teams
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
It's not really individual use; it's use for the whole company.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
individual, absolutely. Cloud Code is pulling ahead. There's also, I do think Codex is not too far behind though. At
Okay.
least from I think there's a good chance that they
And I
have.
mean, I feel like we kind of have like a rotation of, like the Codex and the Claude Code, and then like I've heard that Grok is like doing good on benchmarks, and Gemini is like coming out. As
Oh,
far as like Grok and Gemini, where do you think they're at in like competition or like in usage?
perhaps my sample size has a bit of a lagging bias because, like I said, I'm talking to dev platform teams that look at it as a enterprise wide deployment.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Gemini has in fact been coming up a little bit more than, even a few months ago.
Okay.
But like I said, the most sophisticated teams usually have a layer where they can change
Switch it
them.
out.
Yeah, yeah. But like I said, this is for enterprise wide stuff or code base wide stuff. It's not like individual developers. Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, ergonomics wise, Cloud Code I'd say is the winner at
Mhm.
the moment. But yeah, Gemini is definitely coming up. Folks are trying what's working. Yeah.
What would you say to like a company that they're listening to the show today and they're getting like a little bit of FOMO because they're like, oh, like we might have like some individual people that are using AI to help with like development or like other areas, but they don't really have like a very robust system-wide approach to everything. What's a piece of advice you could give them?
Yeah. A, you're not alone. Most of the world is where you are at the moment. But B, things you can do concretely are pick one or two of your most AI curious folks, put them on a project that involves looking at your engineering tasks in general and what the highest leverage, like if you could pick a process or a task that's very important to your company. For instance, the CEO I was talking to earlier this morning, they one of the things they have to do is detect which packages could potentially be vulnerable to security attacks. This is something that they just sort of have to do, and they've just had to throw as many humans as possible at it. And so an AI tool would dramatically improve the ratio of how much one human being can go through in terms of like just number of bugs, et cetera, that they're reviewing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did was they put an engineer on that team specifically to go to learn about this problem and then see how much they can AIify it, how much they can leverage that team with that specific task with AI, and just learn from doing that one task for the team. And now they've gone up to three very high leverage tasks for the company that have an AI component to them. And because of that AI component, now they can get one person to do a lot more, to go through many more security bugs or to approve a lot more things confidently, or to be able to ship a lot more code again confidently, because of the AI tooling they've set in place. And so I'd say concretely, that's a very reasonable approach. Get one or two of your most AI curious engineers to go to one or two of your most underlevered engineering teams and tasks. Figure out, underlevered meaning important, but like if you could increase the ratio of engineer to getting through these tasks,
Mm-hmm.
put them on those things, and see how far you get, and that's already a big win at that point. And it'll start giving you a feel for what kind of platform you want to build internally for your company.
Okay. I love that. I think that is some amazing advice, honestly. Okay. So I think we heard this maybe more at the beginning of kind of this AI boom. And I feel like I hear it a little bit less now. But, at the beginning, we would often hear like, oh my gosh, the latest version of ChatGPT or Claude just dropped. It's going to completely like replace your software developers that do XYZ, or all front end software developers are dead because of, whatever. Okay. So I think we're kind of starting to understand a little bit of a more clear picture of how this can essentially augment people, not just completely eliminate jobs today. Talk to me about why it's so hard. I guess talk to us a little bit about why that is, maybe for some people that aren't aware, but also if you had to make a case and like put like in your brain, you had to be like, okay, how do I build a company today that is 100% run by AI and maybe one person? Like, what would the systems have to look like? I don't think in the future, let's say 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 100 years, like it will happen to some degree. What would it look like? What would have to happen in order for that to happen? And why is it so challenging perhaps today?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and something that I've given a bit of thought to as well. I'm sure most people, like a lot of people, have at this
Yeah.
point. But yeah, all first principles wise, ultimately, somebody is going to be responsible for the quality of the thing you're shipping and for what's being shipped. Like for deciding the features of your software, like what it can do, and the quality, like meaning how reliably it can get that done and consistently and whatever. Like basically, you're in charge of actually doing the thing. Given that, ultimately, I feel like if we're working backwards from there, from
Yeah.
like, okay, someone's responsible for the quality of the software that's being produced, and maybe it's the same person that's also responsible for deciding what needs to be, or the same entity if it's not a human being. Maybe that's an AI afterwards too. But
Yeah.
you basically need to give it different layers of feedback at every stage of the software development lifecycle. Basically, if you want to be able to get it to write code, you need a validation layer for that so that it knows whether it's right or wrong. And then if you want to be able to ensure that it follows your company's tone, the words on your app, like the strings in your code base, have words that match your company's brand. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a sort of an implicit standard today that your UX folks put in place, but now it needs to be automated. Ensure you have a verifiable layer to that, like some verifiability. So putting in place different layers of automatic verifiability is how we're going to get there at every stage. So first at like just code generation, like does the code run? But after that, does the code run and do the thing I expect it to do? Does it do the thing I expect it to do and in the way I expected it to be? Does it do that? And then in our brand guideline, is it secure? Is it this? Is it like compliant? There's all of these things that are going to have to be automatically verified in order for an autonomous agent to run.
Mm-hmm.
So investing in systems that do that is the way you're going to get there. Ironically, these problems have been solved by companies that have had to deal with large numbers of engineers submitting code to their code base already. Open source teams and very large companies have had to deal with already putting in place automatic checks for code coming into their code base. These problems have already been solved. It's just been solved for a different context. I think we can borrow a lot of really good ideas from dev platform teams that have managed very large engineering teams submitting code into their code base, because we can increasingly just assume that AI agents will get more and more powerful in terms of their reasoning ability and in terms of their code generation ability and all of these things, like tool using ability. And so they're increasingly going to become like human software engineers. And if that's the case, we've already solved a lot of these problems for managing large numbers of agents, large numbers of human software engineers contributing code to your product at scale. We should aggressively start borrowing principles from them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's like one of the greatest explanations I've ever heard. So I love that. I feel like we need to take that, like that explanation needs to be a clip and its own video. So you might see it on YouTube. That's awesome. So what is the biggest challenge that we're facing today with people, like with making it challenging to automate a lot of the stuff we do with AI for software developers, but maybe other people? What are the big challenges we're facing today?
It's the trust. It's the fact that it's not 100% autonomous. Like it works. Let me start with what's working well. It's good at code generation. You can get your engineers to work well with an AI agent to generate code faster than they could before. But there are very few places that can completely just let an agent autonomously write code, because they very much still need a human in the loop. Because like I said, the validation's not fully, like we don't fully trust that these systems are 100% of the time going to produce reliably useful, correct, good code. And so that's the big bottleneck today. So the struggle is basically moving from, we'll need humans in the loop, but getting the human in the loop to do higher and higher leverage things. And to be able to go through more code that's generated, or reviews, or whatever, or like security check, or like whatever the human's meant to be doing. Like we're good at like today generating code with AI, but it's on a per PR basis that human beings still need to review stuff. If we can make that slightly higher point, which is either like at a feature level, if we we'll need to increase our trust in these systems to be able to start delegating more to them. So that's why today we can't just have in production, people aren't just entirely just giving a PRD and being like, all right, AI, just ship this feature, and then not looking at it. You very much still have to look at it because you don't fully trust it. And so, things need to get more deterministically reliable and provably reliable for people to start trusting them fully.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you're the field CTO at Buildkite, and I'm looking on their website. You guys work with like Wix and Canva and Cash App and like Tinder and Shopify and Block and like everybody, like the most massive companies. Something that I'm always curious about, because I know you interface with and you work with a lot of these, a lot of the top software engineering teams in the world. What is something you feel like all of these top teams have in common today?
They care about their bottlenecks. They care about, in addition to the features that they're shipping, they also care about the system that ships the features, and looking at that system and seeing where the bottlenecks are and aggressively debottlenecking the system itself.
Okay. I love that. And then what is one thing that you think every company should start doing today to prepare for? We've talked a lot about like where we think the future of AI could go, theoretically, where it might go. What's something that people should be doing today to prepare for that?
Two things. One, getting a good sense of what AI agents can do, and getting a good sense of the kinds of tasks that you can use them to do. And B, getting a good sense of your own system, and then seeing which of those can map to what your AI systems can do.
Okay. I like that. As far as so we've talked a lot about like systems and like full companies and like what they should do. But like on an individual level, what do you
Yeah.
think some of the most important skills are that are going to matter for people that are getting into this space? Maybe they're new in the field. I like on the one hand, I feel bad because I talk so much about all these incredible AI innovations, but we also see a lot of analytics and statistics coming out of different like research places that are saying like junior developers are really struggling to land jobs today. So what's like a piece of advice you would give people that are new coming into or about to come into this space that would essentially make them more competitive or help them to overcome that?
Yeah. And so there's two skills I would invest in if I were starting out. I'm already investing in even though I'm not starting out.
Right.
But the two skills are one, like I said, getting familiar with what the AI tools can do, and B, being able to verify what these tools spit out at whatever level of abstraction you're working at. Meaning, if you're going to be a software engineer, knowing that AI can, it's important to be able to work with AI so that it can generate a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But B, it's also important to be able to know when to effectively use the AI stuff. You're going to be able to also need to know to be able to manage its output.
Okay.
Meaning, and what does that specifically mean? It means to be able to verify its work at whatever level you want, meaning either at the feature level, functionality level, or if you want to be able to make sure the code itself works, being able to actually understand what it says and why it works and why it doesn't, or how it's doing it. Or if you're at the sort of technical PM sort of level, at least understanding the sort of system diagram that's starting to form from the system that you're forming. But basically, point I'm trying to make, the high level point I'm trying to make is two skills. Start developing an intuition for what it can do,
Okay.
but B, given what it can do, start developing an intuition for how to verify what it can do.
Okay. I think that's fantastic advice. Yeah, I mean I always think about like how do we help make sure that people aren't getting left behind in all of this because like I for myself have a software company as well. And
Yeah.
it's very easy for us to get like super excited about all of the developments. We don't hire junior developers like we used to do like smaller front end things anymore because we're like, well, like our senior guys, like they're just using Claude Code to like do a lot of the front end stuff
But
that
that's
used to.
because you trust them to verify what Claude Code outputs. So the
Yes,
more your junior
100%.
folks can get good at verifying what stuff can, and how do you learn to verify stuff? It's often actually by knowing the fundamentals a little.
Yes.
And so the fundamentals are still going to be very valuable, but more to verify than to create.
Yes. Yep. I love that. That's so true. Okay, going into a little bit of your past for a second, what
Sure.
is one of the biggest lessons you learned from going through Y Combinator not once, but twice? I feel like we have a veteran here. A lot of people would like to know what is
What are the lessons I've learned from going through YC twice? Or what is the secret
yeah.
to Yeah, okay, yeah. Lessons I've learned from going through YC twice. And the secret is to just is to try hard. The secret to life is just to genuinely try hard. I think, and to care, and to really care a lot, and to try hard. Um, but like increasingly, building is going to be, and it already is, commoditized, for lack of a better word. Meaning, most people can build if they set their mind to it. So focusing on the distribution side and ensuring that you are in fact solving a problem that people have is the main thing, is actually the great filter. The great filter is, are you making something people want? That's YC's logo. Well, YC's motto is make something people want. And that the making part is now increasingly commoditized,
Hmm.
but something people want is the filter here. And so ensure that you validate that and that you've got access to the people that want it, or that you've figured out ways that you can distribute it. Because at this point, like, you can trust that if it needs to be built, you will find a way to build it. I mean, and if you can't figure that out, obviously, but yeah.
Okay. I love that. That is phenomenal advice. Spriha, it has been amazing having you on the show today. You've shared so many insights. I feel like I need to go re-listen to this whole interview because there's so many good points in there. As we're wrapping up, if you could leave us with one final piece of advice for organizations on how to best not feel like they're missing this incredible moment we have right now with so much advancement in AI and automation and so many things, what would your final piece of advice be to organizations?
So each organization is different. So what I would say is that the commonality here is at least put one or two folks to experiment with this stuff who understand, and get them to understand two things: your business and the technology that's available. That's the most general purpose advice I can give. But given its general purpose, it's probably also more useless than specific advice. But Okay, well, the other thing is come chat if you want to talk shop and trade notes on what's actually going on in the field. I happen to, one of the joys of my role is I get to observe a lot of what's really going on the ground at a ridiculous amount of the world's most cutting edge engineering teams.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to talk about what's really going on, if you'd like to get some ideas about how other people are doing things, if you'd like to trade notes, hit me up. I'm Spriha at buildkite or on LinkedIn, Spriha Baruah Tucker. But yeah.
Okay. Amazing. And I will also leave a link in the show notes for anyone curious to buildkite.com if you want to check out more of what you guys are doing. And of course, find you on LinkedIn. Make sure to go and follow Spriha. She is absolute legend in the industry. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been phenomenal. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. Make sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.